Hello everyone, my name is Akira. I'm a pianist, piano teacher, and a translator who's lived in 3 different countries. On my channel, I'm posting videos of my performances, topics related to and not related to music. If you haven't done so, please subscribe and hit the bell button so you won't miss my future videos. Today I'm back with another lesson on Burgmuller. We're gonna cover number 2 Arabesque. Before making last video, I had a huge dilemma. I have to admit, today's music number 2 Arabesque is a lot more exciting to play and a lot more popular, which will make a lot better video for YouTube. So the good part of my heart was saying,
Akira, you have to make the video in the right order. You have to do number 1 first.
But the dark side of my heart was saying,
don't worry about the right order. Make the popular video first. Star didn't come out in the right order either.
It was such a tough decision, but fortunately, enough people commented on the first video. So here I am with the second video of the series. Before I start, as always, I would like to say a huge thank you to my patrons on patreon.com. These videos take a lot of time and effort to make, and your support, especially monetary support, has been huge encouragement and support to make these videos more often. And if you're kind enough to support me for $3 or $10 per month, I'll leave the link in the description. I know it's not a lot, but all my patrons get 3-day early access to all my future videos. Alright, let's get into the music. I'm gonna play and show you how it sounds first. Like I said in the last video, each one of these music have something that you're supposed to learn from. And in this music's case, obviously, that's this rapid 16th note that keeps moving. But before we get into that, let's talk about these chords. When you play the chords, you have to curve all the fingers in and grab them, like this. Don't make this finger shape and try to move the whole arm like a fork, like this. You won't be able to control the sound very well, and you might not even last for the whole piece. Before I start talking about how to play these 16th notes quickly and evenly, I'm gonna have to remind you this is intermediate repertoire. That means you're supposed to have learned everything you're supposed to learn in the beginner level already. So if you've missed any of my previous tutorials, I strongly recommend watching them first. That way this video will make a lot more sense to you. Alright, let's talk about these 16th notes. Now, up until this point, you should have completed a few of the hand-on exercises. And you can actually use the same rhythmic exercises for hand-on I introduced in this video in these passages, like this. Or just like hand-on, these rhythmic variations should give you a strong foundation for dexterity and control. But another thing you have to keep in mind is you have to unlock your wrist. And I talked about this in details in the last video, so if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch that first. So when you play A with your thumb, your hand goes to the left and up a little bit. Left because your thumb pulls to the left, and up because the thumb becomes a support for your hand now. When you play C on the other hand, it goes straight toward the piano, and up, of course. So when I go from A to C and down, your hand should move like this. And if I do this in a rapid motion, now if I go from A to E, the pentascale straight up, it should first pull your hand to the left, and eventually to the right. So your hand should move like this. Now if I do it in a rapid motion, now don't get me wrong, this is different from your hand pushing down the fingers. This is your finger pulling. If your hand pushes a finger down, it'll sound like this. You can see none of the fingers are doing the work. and my sound is all mashed up. But by unlocking your wrist, arms, elbow, and shoulder, and your whole upper body, your fingers no longer have to fight with them and can do whatever they need to do. So say now that you can play the first two measures really well, but sometimes you're going to have trouble in the third and fourth measures. And that's because you have to move your hand. So let's talk about how to move your hand. What I see in a lot of students playing this. So if I do this in a slow motion, I'm moving my hand this way. You don't have to move here. Now by the time I'm done playing this E, my thumb is already above the D. And by the time I'm done playing the A, my thumb is about to set itself on the A, like this. So move your thumb as soon as possible after playing the first note. And then as soon as you're done playing this key, expand. Now you're in the next position. And you even have time to sort of get settled and be ready for the next motion. If I do it in a fast motion, you may not be able to see it, but if you watch in slow motion, you can see my thumb is getting into the next position already, and as soon as I'm done playing, my hand is expanding into the next position, and I have a split second to get prepared for the next motion. And this split second will make a lot of difference because now you can set your hand, feel the next keys, be confident that you won't miss any of the keys. That is, unless you break your finger shape, of course. Everything I talked about in the last video about interpretation actually applies to this music and all other music too. But just because of time, I'm going to skip that part and I'm going to only focus on the technical aspect in this video. So when you get to the second part, your left hand has to do the same thing. Unlock your wrist, but in this case, you actually have this black key right here. So it actually makes a little difference. If you're playing only white keys, your hand should move like this. Just right and left and slightly up because your fingers are working as support now. But now you have to play a black key which is a little further and higher. So compared to where your hand would sit when you're only playing white key, your hand has to go forward and upward a little bit and move like this. So now you're going to have to start a little higher, a little lower toward the white key, toward the thumb, and come back to a higher place to play this black key. If I do in quick motion, it will look like this. Make sure you're not using the side of your thumb like this, because that will force your hand to go farther down, and at that point your hand is pushing down the finger rather than your finger pulling your hand. So it should look like this. Now that you can play smoothly, now you have to think about moving to the next location and executing this as well. This motion is a little different because you're going from here. You cannot really shrink your hand and put your pinky ahead of time to this A. So you have no choice. You're going to have to play this and move right away after this G sharp. But fortunately, it's not as big of a movement, so you can still get there and still have time, like this. Again, if you watch in slow motion, my hand is ready well before I actually have to play this pentascale. The key is not to leave your hand in old position, but get into the next position as soon as possible and wait there. And even though you can get only a little bit of time before you actually play, that a little bit of time will help you a lot. If you can touch the keys before you start and get settled, you're going to have much better chance of succeeding the next motion. Again, if you're having trouble, I would do a hand-on rhythmic exercise too. The next thing is exactly the same motion. But here, you're going to have to do something tricky. A lot of students have trouble playing this, but look at this. It says diminuendo e poco rallentando, meaning get softer and also a little slower. So by slowing down, it actually helps you already. And the key here is the fingering. If you go from here, I don't think anybody's going to debate this second finger because it's already there. And then you have to change right after the second finger to one finger. And everything's all set. So it's really just this one spot where you have to place your thumb onto F. But had it not been for these fingering markings, how would you know you had to put thumb on F? And that's because of this. If you look at the whole picture, at the end, you're going to have to play. So you want to end up in this A minor pentascale position. And then if you look D and D sharp, then you have only 3, 2 as a choice. Now in order to have 3, 2 here, then you're going to have to start playing this F with one finger. So a lot of times, fingering decisions, you have to think backwards. Because you have to have your hand in certain position here, you're going to have to play this note with this finger, and therefore you have to put one finger on here. But if you're playing this for the first time, how would you know? You don't. That's why I write in these fingerings on my music. These are what I call critical fingering. If you just put one finger here, then everything after that will go well. And if you're practicing this music for the first time and you don't know what's coming up, that's okay, because as long as you put one finger here, then everything else will go well. On the other hand, this number 2 right here is not a critical fingering, because like I said, if you play this, number 2 finger is already there. Why would you use anything else? Most of sheet music has a lot of fingering written in, but some of them are more important than the other. And what I call critical fingering is the ones that if you don't keep that fingering, you're going to get in trouble in the future. And even for my own music, I write a lot of these critical fingering in for myself. Even though it says 1 already on this note, it's very hard to distinguish which one you should follow and which one you should ignore while you're playing for the first time. So it really helps if there's a handwritten big number on it. Then you're going to follow them, and then it will magically work. So for your right hand, you're coming from here. So number 2 is, of course, that's right there. You're going to use that. Nobody's going to dispute that. And then when you play this, you're going to run out of your finger. Which fingers to change to? You're going to change to 3. And then you're going to use 2, and that works out. Again, why 3 on C? Why can't it be 4? Because if you do 4, now you end up in using thumb on the black key, and that's a no-no like I explained in this video. If I change to 2, I have to change again. And that's an unnecessary risk to take. So I write in 3 on this C, and if I follow that, you pretty much have only one choice. Use number 2 to play this G sharp, so I wouldn't even consider this as a critical fingering. So if you practice to follow these 2 critical fingerings here, everything works out. At the end of this music, there's another challenge where you have to play this. Now this is a nerve-wracking moment because this is the end of the music. If you make a mistake here, you're going to end your piece like this. And there's no way to recover because there's no more music to go with. That's the last impression your audience gets. So no matter how well you played the whole piece, if you mess up the ending, that's it. So in order to play this part reliably, there are a few advices I share with you today. First of all, know the notes really well here. You really have to know where you're going, so these last 3 measures, you basically have to memorize it. Number 2, when you move your hand, slide on the key and don't lift your hand, because when you lift your hand and go to the next spot, you're drawing this arc, and that's a lot longer than when you go straight to your destination. So instead of this, you have to slide like this. And when you arrive early, you have time to adjust. Again, you can touch all the keys and be sure you can play the right keys. When you play the piano, it's very important that you are touching the keys that you're going to play. And this becomes even more true in the next part. Here. So you play this, slide, and touch these 4 keys and feel it. Then you won't hit the wrong key. If you play from the air like this, now I wasn't so lucky, I hit double key here. Again, it's extremely hard for your fingers to float in the air and then try to land and play the right keys at the same time. But if you slide and give you a moment to adjust and touch the right keys and feel it, it's very hard to miss the keys that you're already touching. And that's the key to play this part reliably. And to prove that, I'm going to play these last 3 measures 10 times in a row. No cuts. And if I make a mistake, I'm going to just cut this part off altogether. Because you can in these videos. Here we go. Yes! This is a great timing to press that like button. It was actually pretty hard to count and play at the same time, so I hope I played enough times. Anyway, these are the tips I wanted to share today for this piece. Now I have to warn you, I have a tendency to play everything too fast when I demonstrate. So if this is your first time playing Burgmuller, don't attempt to play this fast. You're gonna have to pick your comfortable tempo where you can handle everything and then gradually speed up. As always, if you learned something from this video, please hit that like button so YouTube will know this is a good content and start spreading to other people. Like I said in the last video, if enough people watch, like, share this video and leave in the comments, I will make this into a whole series and cover the rest of the 23 music. If you're interested in one-on-one session with me for lesson, consultation, or just to say hi, I'll leave the link to my appointment system in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!